All right, so welcome to what I like to call Storytime with Dan. He wishes I would come up with another title, but I think it's fun. And Dan Balow is, in my opinion, one of the smartest guys around, and he doesn't like it when I say that either. Um, but he's just got knowledge about everything. And last year at Right to Publish, he told us the story of Right to Publish, and we were enthralled. And um, it's really relevant, even if you're not coming to Right to Publish, because all of us are in the middle of working to write for Jesus. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming or discouraging or like we're spinning our wheels. And the people who started and built Right to Publish had no idea what was going to be happening, in the years to come. And so I just love the story and its relevance for us. So, Dan, take it away. Oh, also, yes, this is Dan Balow from the Steve Lobby Agency. Thank you.
I have to
Love you,
put up
Dan.
with Steve Lobby and Bob Hostetler on an ongoing basis. That should be requiring, applause right there. Those guys are interesting to work with in a
Or,
positive way.
or Purple
Well,
Heart.
good afternoon, everybody. Just want to tell a little bit of background about Right to Publish. First of all, I don't think I've been to some writers conferences in the general market, in the broader market, and the environment there is just a not a sort of a secular version of right to publish. It is an entirely different thing of people wanting to pitch their work and critique sessions. A lot of that, a lot of you know, a lot of profanity and other types of things. I remember sitting on a panel at a Writer's Digest conference years ago here in the Chicago area, and they had everybody had a thing where you would read the first page of your manuscript, and then everybody would react to it, and I felt like I was first the stuff it was okay, some of the people were reading, but this one guy read like the first page of his young, it was like a novel for tweens or whatever, and it was his first page just kind of really got into it, and it was all about young teenage boys talking about girls in the locker room kind of stuff, and so just use your imagination, and it all ended, and I felt like I everybody else was, oh, that's good, that's good, that's good on the panel, and it got to me, and I said, why would you write that? I mean, it's like, of course I'm a Christian. I can't that I think that's not a good use of any creativity. Or everything got quiet. There were like 200 people in the room, and all this kind of stuff. But I always remember that little episode whenever I come to a Christian writers conference, that first of all, you have a whole different filter of things, and there's a lot more of a collegial attitude, a lot more. There certainly is rejection and all those kinds of things, just because the no, this won't work for me, kinds of things, but not the sort of mean-spirited, sort of dark things that go on. And so I think that's one thing. That's why I appreciate going to Christian writers conferences. Just the environment is a whole different thing. Now, Right to Publish, it started. Uh, 55 years ago was the first right to publish back, and was held at Moody Bible Institute. It was started by two members of Moody's staff that were just wanted to create something for it was Christian. A lot of Christian colleges were starting professional writers majors and things like that. And the two people that started it, if you're familiar with Les Stobie, long time Christian guy, and he Steve Lobby, 10 years ago, Steve Lobby bought his literary agency from him. So we work with Les's clients that he had, but and Les is still around. I think he's 90s. But also he joined together with a professor from Moody, Glenn Arnold, Dr. Glenn Arnold, who later on in his career went to work at Wheaton College, and there's a little part of that story that happened 25 years later. But so I started in 1971. It was actually a course that people would take in the summer for credit, and it went for several weeks, like a couple of days a week for several weeks. And so they had professors. I do have a picture from 1975 of Jerry Jenkins when he was like, I don't know, in 1975, he was like 14 years old or something like that, but a full head of hair and, fun looking guy. But he was the head of Moody. He was the head of Moody Magazine at that time, or Moody Monthly, they called it. But so it continued as that for a number of years. Lynn Johnson, who managed the conference or directed it and owned it for many, many years, for like 3 decades, she actually started first working with it in 1982 as an assistant. And she was like assistant director because when you pull together it's sort of like asking, when you ask professors and people who are editors to like run something, the administrative side of things, it's going to be a disaster. So you need somebody to, sort of step in and work with that can handle all the detail type stuff. And Lynn did that all the way back to 1982 as assistant director. But a few years later, Moody shut it down, and then Lynn was asked to come back in 1987 to kind of revive it, and she did, and it started working again. 100 people came in like 1987, and she got it all the way up to close to 200 people attending. But in 19 to 1993, it shut it down. Moody shut it down for good and gave Lynn all the assets. They gave her the mailing list of people that have attended and things like that, and she was allowed to use the name and just kind of go and do it. So she managed it. It did a couple of things for a couple of years where it was involved as a weekend event, one Saturday at Moody, one at Wheaton College, and kind of split its time with there. But it wasn't, I mentioned this guy, Glenn Arnold, who 25 years earlier had helped start it. He was now at the Wheaton College Graduate School, and he arranged to have an interest-free loan given to Lynn to actually make it into a full conference that would go. And because it does take, if you're going to do any kind of a conference, you need to come up with a certain amount of money up front to be able to reserve the space at the college, in the rooms and things like that. So, she directed it all the way through 2022. And 2020 was a little bit of a strange year for everyone, but she did it for 26 years doing just the full conference at Wheaton College, and it was most of it was down at the Billy Graham Center at the time, but then has moved up into the facilities where it is now. But then after the 2022 event, she was interested in exiting it, and so Steve Lobby and I talked about it. I live 6 blocks from Wheaton College, so that's made it easy for me. But the she sold the conference to Steve Lobby, who also back 10 years ago also bought 2 other things. He bought the Christian Writers Institute, and he also bought the Christian Writers Market Guide from Jerry Jenkins, and so there's just a lot of connections here. Becky, maybe you know this or not, but the Christian Writers Institute that you now own also, that was actually started by who was a English professor at Wheaton College back in the early 50s. So almost 75 years ago, that was started. Robert Walker was the publisher of Christian Life magazine, if you remember that, Christian Life magazine. And then it was purchased by, he owned it for a while. Then it went to Strang Communications, which is Charisma Publishing, a number of other magazines, things like that. And then it was sold to another place, and then Steve bought that in 10 years ago. So all these assets have come from all over the place, and so Becky, is kind of in the middle of all of that. I think pulling them all together, it was the beginning of that was with Steve Lobby, and so I directed it in 2023, 2024, 2025. Becky bought all of those assets for Christian Writers Institute and Christian and Right to Publish in after the 2024 convention or the 2024 conference, and so it's just a matter of who who is running it and owning it at this point.
I
But
would like to mention that our original deal was you were going to stick around for 5 years,
yeah,
and
yeah,
through
yeah.
that
A
year,
day
it
is as a thousand
slowly,
years, though. That's the
yes.
way it
So,
works.
but you're still hanging out, so it's fine. And you were right.
I'm
We're
not
doing
moving.
fine. It's going to be great. But
I think if you look at the transcript, it was that I'm not going to move for 5 years, so I'm still within 5 or 6 blocks. But one of the also just some of the other interesting things, in those early days, the one of the teachers that would quite frequently teach was, if you remember the name Joe Bailey. Do you remember that name? He was the president of David C. Cook Publishers at the time. He wrote a number of books. When I was a kid, I mean, he wrote a book. I think it was in 1967. Did you ever read the book The Gospel Blimp? Did you ever read that? It was like a little satirical book. I think you still can get it, and it was in the, I think, 67, 1968, somewhere around in there, and it was kind of an interesting take on organized evangelistic efforts, and all that. Where like this, it's just a really interesting. So Joe Bailey was there. Another person, Jim Johnson, was a major player in the early days, and of it as well. And he was he started something, and Becky's been in touch with these people and all that. I'm on the board of Media Associates International, which is an international writers training ministry that does this Lit World every few years and is working around the world and things. But Jim Johnson was one of the founders of that. So there's all these people from the past that have worked together for all these things. I don't think anybody could have seen how Glenn Arnold and Jerry Jenkins, Joe Bailey, and all these different people at the back in the early 70s. Fast forward here, so many years, 55 years, and you have different people involved, but the thousands of writers that have been helped and encouraged and given direction and training. It really is one of those things where, just like so many other things in our lives, when you look back, is really because we're not omniscient beings. We only see things clearly in the rearview mirror, from of how God is working through things. But you can see how it happened. And it makes so much sense. All the people involved, all the people that have been teaching for so long and connecting and doing all these kinds of things. It's so to see how God has done that. It really truly is kind of a cloud of witnesses that have gone on before you and anybody that's part of it. This isn't just some construct that just came up recently. It's got a nice heritage to it, and I think and so I hope you feel that when you come to Wheaton College. It's just like there's a lot of things that are just like any college and all that, but you make sure you go over to the Wade Center where you've got the C.S. Lewis and Tolkien things. Get your picture taken in front of Lewis's wardrobe. Sit at Tolkien's desk. Different things like that. Go over and to the Billy Graham Center. Well, there's just so many different writers and other things that have kind of gone through, as they have with any college or place of higher education. But it's a special place. I'm a 1978 graduate, and I feel like I have a little bit more energy behind all of that. My wife actually was an adjunct instructor for 15 years in the um, for the college, and ended up she worked with Glenn Arnold for a number of years, who was one of the founders of this. So you see all these pieces kind of coming together, but I think you should be fully appreciative of it. Now I'll mention one last thing. Um, Lynn Johnson is like the most don't look at me kind of persons ever. Like the worst day of her life is if she was hauled up on stage and given a lifetime achievement award or something like that. But um she was the one that sort of, I don't know, resurrected this. She put her neck out there. She worked hard on it, and for many, many, many years. And so she'll be at the conference this year. She couldn't come last year because of some throat surgery, but she'll be there this year, and probably she'd be totally embarrassed if you just went up to her unsolicited and thanked her for all of her work, but just walk by her and smile and say, "I know what you did," or something like that, because I
Make
think she'd
sure the
appreciate it.
smile is like not scary though, because I know
Yeah,
what you did.
what did I do? Or something like that. But yeah, I don't think she fully realizes. Maybe maybe in a few years she'll kind of look back and be able to get some more perspective on it. But the number of people that have been helped and then things like that, it's a it's truly one of those types of situations. You only see how God worked in the rearview mirror. So that's a story of Right to Publish. It really is an interesting little trajectory, and when you know most of the people involved over a long, long, long period of time, and know what room things happened in, and how things were done, and knowing some of the people and their background and all that, I think it's just even makes it even more interesting.
Yeah. And actually I mentioned this yesterday, but the reason I'm not having Lynn tell the story is because she probably would be like, number one, I don't want to, and number two, she'd be like, here, I wrote it. You can read it out loud. And then she'd be like, and I'm not coming because she doesn't like to be in front. But we have these ribbons this year that I'm pretty excited about that say cheerleader. And so it's going to be available for people to give to other people that have encouraged them during the conference. And so what I'm hoping to organize is that like basically everybody puts one on Lynn because we're gonna have it, they'll have a little sticky thing that you can so they can wrap around the lanyard. And so by the time she's done, she'll have like a lay of cheerleader ribbons. Um, so that's my goal. I
She's
think
going to
that
be really annoyed at you for doing that, Becky. You know
she will, but she'll
that.
love it. She'll probably take it home and hang it on her wall afterwards. So
Hope she surprises us.
I'm not gonna like, bring her up on stage. We'll just quietly walk up and put the ribbons on her lanyard. Be like, thanks for what you did. So, well, Dan, thank you for coming and telling the story because you do such a good job and it's just wonderful. After Dan told it last year, everybody was like, "Can we do this every year?" And I was trying to work it in, and I was like, I can't figure out where to organize it, so that's why we're having these, and then people can watch the video since we recorded. So, if anyone has any questions while Dan's here, now's a great time to ask, and you can use the raise hand button. So down under React, there's a raise hand bar, and that makes it easy to you click that, and then it puts a little hand and moves you up to the top of the screen. So if you have a question about Right to Publish or writing in general, Dan's here. He's captive audience for the moment. And since it's a room full of introverts, we'll give you a minute. So, Gordon,
Gordon,
go ahead.
unmute, mute.
Gordon, you're still muted. Let me see if I can do the ask to unmute thing. Gordon, I don't know if you can hear us, but you have to unmute.
Unmute. I
There
am.
you go.
Yeah.
Good.
Now you're barely going to hear me, Dan, because I have vocal cord damage. But you say you graduated from Wheaton College, 78. Did you have a degree in journalism from there?
No, they didn't have one back like that. They had English and then they had communications. So I majored in communications. So I took writing classes and all that. So it was more broad spectrum um, uh, that of just
Uh,
communicate different communications of script writing, article writing, all sorts of
okay.
different things you were exposed to.
Well,
So,
what did you do early on in your career then?
oh, I worked for radio stations, turning dials, and then was a
Really?
salesman for a
Huh.
couple of radio stations in Chicago for a couple of years, and then I started uh, realized that I didn't feel like changing jobs. Working for radio stations, you change jobs every 4 months, and right before you go, you're the senior staff member, and that's the that's just radio. But I then I went
Where
to
did you grow up?
uh, mostly in the Midwest, but my dad worked for the Chicago Northwestern Railroad, so we moved around a little bit here, but
Oh,
mostly, I mean, I moved to Wheaton for the first time in 19, I was 5 years old,
oh,
1961. So I've been here a long time.
okay.
but I was born in Wisconsin, so I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. So that's
Oh, good for you. I'm in Green Bay. Yeah, I live close to the stadium.
You guys are gonna have to hang
yeah.
out.
Yeah, my we
Uh,
after I was on the season ticket waiting list for 26 years and we finally got 3 game Milwaukee tickets. So we've
Good.
but
Okay. I'm sorry I'm off the.
no,
No,
it,
you're
that
fine.
oh, you should have come last night. We would have been talking about eating bugs by this time
Yeah.
last night. So you're way ahead of the game.
Oh, okay.
And my father-in-law played for the Packers, so you're allowed to talk about the Packers
Oh,
here.
Your
very cool.
father-in-law was who?
Uh, Robert Antkowiak, Bob. He played in I forget what year now, but he was at Bucknell and then he moved to the Packers.
Okay. No,
Wow, Bucknell, the football factory. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
he is esteemed highly.
For those of you who care about football, it was a little funny. We
Yeah.
took him for one of the reunions, and the coach came up and he was like, "Oh, you were on our last undefeated team. What do you think about the guys now?" And I'm like, "That's a really dumb question." And
Yeah.
Dad
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah, they're not doing so hot,
Okay.
huh?"
Let's see. There might be
They're not
about
good and you're a
30
bad
people.
coach, so that's good.
I apologize to the other 30 of you for letting us do this.
You're
You may
fine.
be you may be a supporter of someone else just as enthusiastically as we are.
Yes. Well,
Packer fans, whatever.
yeah,
Never
Yeah,
apologize. Never
well,
apologize.
I take my walks and bike rides around the stadium
that's cool.
almost daily, except in the winter. I change venues. Okay, literary questions. I want to hear questions from people.
Sounds good. And we've got Kenneth Weiss. Is it Weiss or Weiss?
Weiss, no V.
Okay. Okay, because the reason I ask is I have a W, but mine says V and ain't Koviak.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Kenneth.
So I'm a Steelers fan, and we have Aaron Rodgers now, so I
There you
somewhere
No,
go.
you
fit into
don't.
this equation. But anyways, so my
We did
question
neither.
Live
is,
long and prosper, however you do that. So,
yeah, there you go. So we have these 15-minute sessions,
yeah.
Yes.
and my question is, from an agent's perspective, how do you feel you get the most out of the 15 minutes? Like, what should we be prepared to do? I've got half question, half pitch that I'm ready to go through. But from your perspective, I wanted to know.
I can't speak for every agent, but I think you have to kind of look at the presentation as or that meeting in like different pieces. Um, uh, First of all, the best meeting, the best you can hope for is that there would be something of a follow up afterwards. That there would be yeah, send me that. Oh, let's talk in 2 weeks or whatever it is. And so therefore you need to tell who you are real quickly, what you're doing. You kind of have your elevator type pitch type thing. Um, uh, we don't need to sit and waste time. Here, can you just read the first chapter? And I spend, 8 minutes doing that or something. You want just as much interchange as possible with questions. What do you think of this category of book? Ask that. Just trying to get as much information. Is there anything I can do to improve my standing in the industry? What should I be doing now? What things should I be focusing on? But then say, can we talk afterwards? Can we get is there more that we could interact with about? Can I send you a proposal? The one thing that it's this is very very common in at Christian writers conferences and maybe because we're dealing with introverts and things like that, and you don't want to. It's just there's a little bit of a fear factor in some of these things. But you'd be surprised how many people when asked to send something to an agent or an editor never do. They never follow through on that. And some of it is because it's easier to sort of hold the potential for something than it is to have a decision, about something that no, this isn't for me. So why don't you try this? But so that's a long way of saying is just think about that whole how you would make that whole thing work, so that you could potentially lead to a further discussion. Nothing definitive. There's no contract to fill out at after the 15 minutes with me filling out a check afterwards or something like that. None of that's going to happen. So just make it so that you know that you'll get another date, later on. It's really what it is.
Okay.
And so how you position yourself, say who you are, what you're doing, what your goals are. Here's my book. Is this a category you think works? Things like that. But always aiming for that next thing
Okay.
where we might be able to sit down for an hour on a Zoom call chatting about your work and the things that you might do and how to unpack all that. So this is just like an intro meeting.
Okay. So in one of these previous sessions, somebody made the recommendation of business cards with your face on them, so everybody could put the name with the face.
That's
So
helpful.
did
Yeah.
that. I'll have those, and then author one sheet that's done and ready to go. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
all
And
right.
yeah, don't try to do too much in it. A lot of times I've seen one sheets and they're like, you know, like 2 pounds of something in a 1 pound bag. It's like packed and
Right.
eight point type just so I could get the all 60,000 words on this one sheet. But the don't worry about that. You're just aiming, give enough information to get to the next meeting where progress will be made. So.
Great.
They're fantastic questions. We have one in the chat. If you would prefer to put it in the chat and have me read it, you can do that. Although this is great practice. So like raising your hand and speaking on a Zoom call is good for you. Um, Peggy wanted to know about books you've written and which is your favorite.
Oh, I've never written a book, so
That's good because then
I've
we don't have to.
marketed about 2,000 of them in my lifetime and interacted with about 1,500 authors, but I've never written a book.
Which is actually a really good point that I would like to bring up because I just had a conversation with somebody who was like, she was going to quit writing because she didn't have a book. She'd been pitching it for 4 years and it had gotten turned down. And she was like, I think I'm just going to quit because if I don't have a book, my time is wasted. And I was like, do you know who else doesn't have a book? And she, no, who? And I just kind of sat there and waited. And she was like, you have a book? I was like, I do not. Can you tell me the title? Because I don't know it. And then she said, "Oh, well, if you don't have a book and you're doing what you're doing, I guess I should keep writing." And like, yes, exactly. So it's actually really encouraging when I
Right,
meet people who are in the industry and helping other people get their books out there,
right,
that don't have, because like I love Jerry Jenkins, and he is probably one of the most humble people I've ever met. But it is intimidating when you like really start talking about the number of books he's written. It's like, I will never get there. I mean, I would if I put all the work in and really did all the things he did, but I won't. So, it's overwhelming when you think about it. And it's a lot easier when you can talk to somebody who's like, oh, you know what? There
yeah.
are lots of other
I can
ways.
just bring up one issue related to that is kind of, at least it's interesting to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
The In the publishing industry, there are a lot of editors who have written books. A lot of book editors that have written books, but most haven't. And those are actually two different function. And an editor is different than a writer. There's
Mhm.
different parts of your brain that you use to help someone else's work versus conceptualize your own work and execute your own work. But one thing I think I've just seen this happen quite a bit. Is that oftentimes that people that have written a lot of books themselves, and I'm looking at, I mean, we have Bob Hostetler, Lynette Eason is one of our agents, and Tamla Murray, and I mean, now Steve Lobby launched his own book yesterday on writing. But the oftentimes writers, when they advise authors, they will sort of look at it through their perspective and say, if I almost like to say, if I would have written this book, I would have written it this way. Whereas people who are a little bit more objective about the thing, some I think can be maybe a little more helpful, but it's not a complete thing. Every agent is different. One of the things that I look for, my background is marketing and all of the, I mean, I ran two different audiobook publishers for 6 years. I've, consulted with, and I ran international publishing and stuff. So I understand the business
Left
side
behind.
and an agent, and the agents are business managers for your publishing relationship, and so it's different, whereas sometimes a more of a literary editor is, or a literary agent is who's more focused on the content. Sometimes they may not be able to advise people as much about their platforms and how to organize their different social media and things like that. So I think we're all different. Everybody is cut out of a different cloth. Steve Lobby started as a Christian retailer. I mean, he won his store in Phoenix, won bookstore of the year for the Christian Booksellers Association one year, and then he ends up being an editor with Bethany House Publishers, and then after that, starts his agency 22, 23 years later. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot
And
of
I don't know if you heard in my cough, I was mentioning Left Behind because you marketed that, right?
yeah, that was a
Or
lot of
worked with.
fun.
Yeah,
It's fun to spend $10 million over a 10-year period to make somebody.
that is fun. Terry's got her hand up. Go ahead, Terry.
Hi. I have a series of books, the third one of which I'm working on now, and I've been working with a publisher. But at the finish of this book, which I have a contract for, I really would like to shift gears and go to either a different publisher or a different way of doing things. It's kind of been a mixed bag in terms of my satisfaction with the publisher I'm working with. And I would like to, I guess my question is, what's the best way to shift gears, to find someone new? Or I don't have an agent. Do I need to go find an agent first, maybe to switch gears? And how much data do I need in terms of like how much sales did I get with the first books and all of those kind of things? I guess I'm wondering if I'm shifting gears, what kind of information do I need to come with, and how do I best research that?
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is just from a is just general type things, because I can't speak to specifics of you should do this and this, but every author with every publisher has issues with their publisher at some point. There's no perfect publisher out there. There's usually what happens where the satisfaction level of a with an author with a publisher is is related to a relationship that they have maybe with their editor or with a specific person that they know there that has been their advocate or whatever through there. But pretty much it's publishers are businesses, and they don't do some things well and they do other things better than most and all this, but it's a mixed bag no matter what. Sometimes, like one thing with bigger publishers, the bigger the publisher, the more risk they're taking, the more they demand things. And but if your book isn't performing, they don't remember your name the next day, that kind of stuff, because they're publishing 12,000 books a year. And so it's a mixed bag of things. And so just first thing, it's sort of like, I suppose we could make comparisons to other parts of our lives where we're seeking greener grass and there is none. But I think it definitely would be that way. So just understand that. I think it may take a little bit of the edge off. Doesn't take your maybe you still need to go through the process, but go into it with eyes wide open. That it's there's going to be some this other publisher maybe do the thing better than what you're used to, but may fall down on other things. And so nobody's perfect. Nobody's
Right.
got it all running, and sometimes a relationship goes well for a certain period of time and then moves on. Jerry Jenkins has published with, what, probably 10 or 12 different publishers, name any. I mean, there's very few authors that have published with the same publisher for their whole career. But I think just take it step by step. Don't be in too big of a hurry. Sometimes things change, you don't that you don't see, and so maybe Doesn't mean you don't that you change your desire to do things better, but just identify those things that you really matter to you, and then seek somebody that matches that. But with a full understanding that sometimes that won't happen. But sorry if
Does
that.
it help to have an agent if I'm looking for a different publisher?
Only if you're looking to agents are for the those publishers who require agents, and so if that's certainly that's not hybrid publishers, that's not self-publishing. We aren't involved in that, but definitely if you're depending on the types of publishers that you want to reach out to, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hmm. Yvonne.
Yvonne. And Yvonne, you're on mute still.
Hi, I'm hiding behind the black screen because I'm on the other end of the spectrum. You mentioned platform, it's my
Yeah.
nemesis. Um, I have three short stories published in anthologies, mystery anthologies, but I really don't have a platform. So, what would be, I'm one of those people who, like, ooh, you know, so what would be a good first step? I have a Facebook page and I am on a blog with a writers group that
Okay.
we're in a rotation. But that's it. And I know I need a website and all, but what do I put on it? I mean, that's what would be a good first step for me to do, or how do I approach that?
So you're writing short stories, you're writing fiction, right?
Yes, mystery
Okay.
fiction. I'm working on my first novel right now.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Okay. Get a website. So just have a website with where you're easily identified, where people can find you, and then don't sweat all the other stuff for platform. Platform for novelists is an excuse for publishers to turn down a manuscript without having to talk about the manuscript.
Okay.
It doesn't matter that, if you're trying to get people, so I just wouldn't worry about it. If it happens, let it happen organically. But in fiction, it's heavily tipped towards the content and the writing, because you're not no, I assume that if you're depending on what you're writing about, if you're going to write about Appalachia in the 1930s, that you have some knowledge of Appalachia in the 1930s. So, those types, if there's general themes. But if you want to start writing articles and other types of things, posting stuff on some platforms, first of all, social media is a total disaster at this point for this. However, here's an example. We see this kind of stuff when you see certain things in the industry. It indicates other things, and all that. HarperCollins, the big publisher in New York, massive billion-dollar corporation, had an opening for a senior marketing manager of TikTok operations. So they have a full-time staff working on TikTok to sell books. TikTok is the most effective way to sell books. And it's like, yikes, like what do you want to do with TikTok, and all this. So novelists, don't sweat it. You focus on your writing, get a website with your name so you can be found and what you do. And if you want to start a newsletter, if you want to start something, the thing is a subscriber newsletter. That is the big hero thing where people say, yeah, send me your weekly update on, Appalachian in the 1930s recipes, whatever. And I'm just making all that up. But just do something that fits what you know best and your style. But don't sweat all the Facebook, X, Instagram stuff. That it's not that important for novelists.
Okay.
Publishers do love the mailing list thing, and so if you can get that working, that's best. But we really it's an objective way to decline an author when really they just don't like your writing, or they don't like the kind of thing. Oh, it doesn't have a platform. with fiction, platform comes after the six is sort of during and after the success as opposed to pre, where nonfiction, you have to have that in place. You have to be that expert, that speaker, that pastor, that teacher, whatever it is beforehand. But it's not that it's a different order of things for fiction. So,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
so Lori, are you next?
Hi. Um, my question is, I went to the ACFW conference and I met with some agents and an editor, and I sent my proposal to the people who wanted it, and um, the agents wrote back with rejections, and the editor asked for my full manuscript. And so, if she happens to decide that she wants it, from an agent's perspective, how how dumb would I be to not have an agent in this scenario?
Um, it depends on the publisher. Some publishers are they don't require agents, and so sometimes that we've had situations where they're interested in working with a particular author, and they'll actually tell the author, now go get an agent. Here's some people that we like working with, and then we'll do it that way. A lot of publishers don't, and the reason that they like to have agents involved is so that they can handle the agent usually handles all the sticky stuff and the things that are and make sure that nothing falls in the cracks and things. And so and so they like working with agents as much as possible. Maybe I'm overstating that, but they some require you have an agent and others don't. But let them take the lead on it. If you have a publisher that's really interested in what you're doing, if they say you really should have an agent, here's some people, then that kind of then you say go to those people and say, I've been talking to so and so, they really like my manuscript. We do have, I think every agent has had a situation where there's been a deal on the table or there's offers on the table, and now go get an agent and go tell them that, there's this, and it's like it changes the discussion, obviously. But they want you in there so that we can explain what that 23-page contract that they have is really all about, and what does clause 17 part B5 actually mean, on page 19 and all that. But they would rather not have to go through all that, so they let agents handle all that kind of stuff. But let the publisher take the lead on that, and if they don't require it, then don't worry about it. They'll
Okay.
treat you fair. These You might not get as much money as you would with an agent, but they're not going to cheat you, things like that. But
Yeah, and
Thank
that's the thing to remember. Like the agent is going to take 15% generally, but they also negotiate on your behalf. And so and they know what can be negotiated. See, I know Sean had a question. Dan, I just wanted to be aware of your time. Do you have time for a few more questions, or do you need
yeah,
to
we're eating dinner in about 3 hours, so I'm just open for
in
that.
3 hours? Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
My
Sean,
question
go
will
ahead.
be short. Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to electronically raise my hand. So
You're fine.
Put a
nice to
put a
meet
yellow glove on and start
Yeah.
waving it like that.
you. Yeah. This will be my first time coming to this conference. I'm a first-time writer, and I love the way, Dan, that you said the point of the 15 minutes is to get to the next meeting, because I feel like it's like speed dating. And so I was wondering if you can just say, what are some things you're maybe looking for in that first interaction? That's my first question.
Yeah.
And I have a second question.
For me personally, that like if I really want to like sometimes if a person I'm meeting with just sort of dives into their presentation and is like really getting into it and all that, I'll say, no, whoa, whoa, whoa. So like, where do you live? Like, well, who are you? You're like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you go to school? Things like that. What kinds of things do you do? It's like that. It's uh and in those cases, it is like speed dating, it's like, so tell me a little bit about yourself, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's so I think there is maybe some of the discussion of these meetings has gotten a little has elevated them to such a point where
Mhm.
my entire life comes down to this one meeting with thing, and it's like, no, it doesn't. This is a
Yeah.
human being. Talk to them, and all this. And I think that to the extent that you come across just as a normal human being that we might want to work together, that goes a long way on things. But then also, there's like a little timer goes off in your head. Okay, I also have to get across. This is my pitch. This is this.
Mhm.
This is that. Um, Maybe, one thing if I'd mention it, you're not having to meet with 17 different people. There is,
Right.
you
Yeah.
have a limited number. Learn a little bit about them too.
Yeah.
Like I see you went to, Columbia University or whatever it is. I saw you did this. I saw you did that, and see if
Mhm.
there's some, just a personal thing.
Yeah.
So things I
Exactly.
don't like are when people are just sort of they just want to dive in and get as much of their pitch into my head as possible. But then also it's a balance. You're a human being. It's just talk,
Yeah,
but
those 15 as well.
yeah.
Sure, that's great. That's great. Thank you very much. My second question is, um, if I am writing nonfiction, you mentioned that then the platform's more important. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Um, Platform, there has to be an audience, a prepared audience, an existing audience for your book. That's really what it is. What you do to get there. Uh, Publishers are all over the board. They've all ran to the social media stuff years ago, and then found out that was sort of that was a little bit hollow, I guess. That would probably
Mm.
be a good explanation for it. But what was effective? There are people that had 100,000 Twitter followers, but none of them were actually paying any attention to what they posted, or they didn't post anything, maybe, who knows. Then you found
Mhm.
out that when people found out you could spend a few $1,000s and have a whole bunch of followers from Indonesia and the Philippines, that would be impress the numbers, and nobody did anything with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, those
the
people
the
aren't
the
buying the
hero,
book. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, unless you're writing about the Philippines and Indonesia. The uh, the a number one thing is that you have some sort of a public ministry type thing, speaking, that you're doing something, or that you have a newsletter, a subscriber newsletter. That if you have 10,000 people subscribing to a newsletter that you do on a regular basis, which is not an unreasonable number compared to, I mean, this is a big world of
Yeah.
things. You can generate a lot of interest from publishers because you own that list, you own those people, and they pay
Mhm.
attention to
Mhm.
you. So if you had to do a priority of things,
Mhm.
speaking, sort of personal appearance type things, a lot of podcasters out there right now. Podcasting is a crowded world where you just fight for years to get your little corner of the audience. But newsletters have that personal aspect to them where you're writing something, and it also connects your writing to people as well. And so they're used to hearing you in their heads through writing. And
Yeah.
and so if you just pick your priorities like that, and
Okay.
don't have to worry about all the other stuff. So,
Thanks. Thank you very much.
yep.
We have one in the chat that kind of goes along with this. Johnny wanted to know if you can kind of give a little more information about what to look for in an agent, particularly for nonfiction authors, and is personality fit important?
Oh yeah. There's a nonfiction. has as much variety to it really than fiction does. There's people that understand different aspects of it. Like if you're writing in more of an academic way, you need to have the people with those kind of connections. Most every agent lets it know what kinds of things that they're interested in. That's not a big mysterious thing. So helping yourself to understand where they're coming from and what kind of things interest them. Ask questions like what interests you, what things are you looking for, is always a good thing. But personal fit, yes. I've had interactions and even uh, different things with people where I just was not like, for instance, if you want an agent to be um, your alter ego. Like you want to be this prim and proper Christian that treats people with all the fruit of the spirit and, and love everyone, but you want your agent to be an absolute screaming thug to intimidate the publishers into treating you well, then you get a certain type of agent for that, and all this. That is a business strategy for some people. You want your agent to be not like you because you want to have the publishers be a bit intimidated when you call up. But other people, they tend, if they're more hard edge, I don't want, I want a nice agent so that they don't, because not all Christians are like, you know, super great people to work with at times, and things like that. So you have to decide, do you want somebody that reflects you well, or is the antithesis of what you are, that you don't want to be taken advantage of? I think most agents don't like to see any of their clients taken advantage of, and that's something that raises our hackles in a big way. But it's a personal thing. You have to like that person. Well, I will say one thing that is um, there is, and I'm actually doing a thing on writing to men at the conference or workshop. But in there, I'll joke a bit about how men and women are different, things like that. Those like revolutionary things, bizarre things that'll get you canceled and thrown into the dungeon somewhere. But there are times where a woman will send me a proposal and like, I don't even understand what you're talking about here, and okay, it's like, I don't personally experience any of those things. And so I actually say, you know what, you should actually have a woman agent and to work with you, because it's like, come on, I'm a boomer white male that has been on the business side of things, not that I only handle football books because they don't sell, but I know what I like. I mean, there are things that I know that sell well, and um, but deep issues that, what, you might need a female agent for that. So that's a long way of saying there's the right agent for you. Everybody, an agent is not a cookie cutter thing. They're human beings like anybody else, and there are good fits and there's not so good fits. So,
We
Gordon,
have
you had another question?
yep. And after that, we have a question in the chat. Go ahead,
Yep.
Gordon.
Audio.
Oop, oop.
Okay, audio again.
Yep.
Okay. I'm kind of stunned that you mentioned that you want an agent who might be intimidating. Are you serious?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
I've known
I
some
never.
lovely Christian writers over the years who intentionally get a New York agent, so that I have heard telephone conversations on speakerphone. Boy, there's a throwback. When was the last time you used a
Huh.
speakerphone? On back where the profanity coming from the other end of the line was just bizarre, and then, okay, we'll give you this and all that. But no, it's a very real thing. You hire, you know,
But
Vito
I'm a
the hitman to
Midwesterner,
be your agent, and that will get you the better deal, So no,
Becky.
that's very real. Sorry, not as
that
much as there is now.
I don't understand that. I just thought,
No,
Yeah, I mean, you
I
should
never
hear
could either.
Dan. You should hear Dan on speakerphone, let me tell you.
Yeah, yeah,
well,
sure. Yeah,
that
I would like to ruin my career. Yeah,
okay.
it's really amazing.
Thank you.
Yep,
And different things work for different publishers.
absolutely.
Um,
I don't get it.
all right, so we've got Gigi, and then we'll go to Johnny. For those of us writing for children, are book proposals favored for pitching to publishers? Research done thus far indicates proposals are not necessary or favored. Your guidance.
For children's books, is what it says.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think children's books, the one aspect about children's books is there's so many pieces to them, they are difficult to sell. I have a half dozen children's clients, not clients that are children, but children's writer clients. But there's just a wide variety of elements. You have artwork, you have style of, if it's depending on the age group, that it's for, whether it's if the writer is an author illustrator, you want to do something. I do a form of a proposal. It may not be the exact same type of proposal as you would do for everything else, but there is a form of a proposal for any author for any category. You have to put all the information out there that's necessary for them to make a decision. And so it's maybe, I think the one thing that might be confusing it is that in the children's arena, you do have a lot more variety of the types of proposals. Like if you have an author illustrator, you might want to focus on as much of the artwork that they're creating, or if it's a team of an author illustrator, or if it's somebody writing a children's book that's for a little older group, then it's more of a traditional type where you need to show the writing samples and the text and different things like that. But um, it becomes much more the children's arena becomes much more complicated with the types of information that you need and how to prepare it and the contacts. There's very few agents that deal with it, just because of all of that. It's so difficult to try to figure out as to how best to represent it. But that's what I think an agent should be able to unpack pretty well. But there's some form of a proposal, maybe not the exact same kind that you might be normally seeing, but some sort of a presentation that would get you to the next level.
The children's writing world I have found to be very different. And so one of my friends is a multi-published children's author, and she definitely does book proposals because she sent me one to look at. Not so that I would publish it, but just because I wanted to see it. So they are a little different, but
yeah.
I think I would say they're definitely used, but maybe join some groups that are for children's writers, like Write to Ignite and some of those.
Right,
ACFW, I think, has some children's groups. So that would be a good place to make connections with people who know those agents.
Right. I know one thing that if you're that, and I get a lot of this is like, I'll get, like the text of a little children's board book is, you might only have like 120 words, in it. And it's like, so here's the text to my children's board book. What do you think? There's like, what do I say? It's like, it's 120 words, how long did it take you to write this? Things like that. Like, who are you? What's your goal? What's the target? What are your comps? What are you seeing? There's like all the work. So you do see that quite a bit with children's authors. They think that 120 words sort of gets them through the door when no, that's just you need to do all the other stuff. What's your comparable books? Who's the target audience? What's the trend for this? What's your story? All those kinds of things are just as important. So yeah, I would say there is everything needs a proposal. There's some sort of presentation of it. So
before we go to Johnny, Jude, I put a question in the chat for you to elaborate a little bit because I didn't really understand your question. And now, Johnny Roberts.
Hey Dan, thanks for your time today and being willing to answer so many questions. My question is, again, for nonfiction authors. I read somewhere, or I think I read somewhere, that occasionally the strength of a message will outweigh the lack of a platform. So my question is, in your experience, have you ever observed that to be true?
Yes, but it is so unpredictable and so random that that happens, that to use it to be a guidance for anything, I think is where, you just, I wouldn't say it doesn't exist, because it does, but I think we all, publishers do not, they're happy when something is an exception, where they thought it was, and it surprised them. There's any number of books that you could name over the years that, where an editor just had sort of a missional thing. This book needs to be published. I love this book. Trust me, it'll happen. And they give it a shot and it works. Okay, great. But that doesn't preclude all of the other things that everybody has to look for. That means that they had to fight the marketing department, the sales department, the finance department, everybody, to say, just give me this one, and I'll do it. And then if that person does that a couple of times and it doesn't work out, that's why exceptions to the rule are difficult to process. Everything is just everything is just based on generalities of what everybody works. Your decisions that are made for a publisher are always a group of business people and creative people, left brain, right brain, all these different things, all trying to come to that, and they're all looking for something that meets their needs. But yeah, I wouldn't. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just that don't be overly depressed if that is the reason that that you're turned down, because that's always been in case. So one of the things most publishers have, for every opening at a publisher, if they have, because most publishers, the majority of books that they're going to publish are authors they've published before, known authors, people with track records, things like that. So there's just a few openings every year at a publisher. And I'm just guessing here based on past experience and everything else, but every publisher has about 20 to 50 proposals for each and every open slot that they might have. And so I think when you just process that, to know the competition for attention, it's a lot more like, if you ever watch any of those, like singing competitions, the American Idol or The Voice or all those kinds of things, and they'll have like some B-roll video beforehand of the line of people going out the door and down the block and around, and then 40,000 people stand in line for that one shot, those types of things. It's not exactly like that, but it's a little bit. So
I think we should set up a thing at Right to Publish where you guys get the, buzzers and people read their first page, and you can.
that would really raise the inspirational level of the conference. I think they had that at that Writer's Digest conference. Lousy idea, something like that. But
It's funny. Jude has a great question in the chat. He said, many of us write with a clear message/thesis in mind to personally enrich the reader after they finish the book. Up to now, the pitch formats I've investigated rely mainly on concept and emotional impact. Does the message of the story carry more weight within the Christian market?
wow, that's like a
Wow.
that's like
I
a
know.
real live question.
Yeah.
You know, I think those are two different things. I think one is the method at which you communicate. Story is the way that you communicate something, and story causes a theme to stick better than something that's you just tell them the principle. And so I think when emotion comes into it through a story, I think that a high level of communication is made at that point. I think it's a story just has that amazing um, that amazing thing. That's why Jesus used them. I mean, if you tell parable of the prodigal son with emotion, just tell that, to the emotions that brings for each character, the joy, the anger, the disgust, the desperation, all those kinds of things. You didn't have to all you'd had to do was show this story. It's that show, don't tell kind of thing that um, is very common in the fiction area, but I think that is not discussed enough about with nonfiction, frankly. That story um, will show how things come together and how it affects people. But I think I did. Is there any? Did I answer that question reasonably
I
close
think it
or?
was good, but Jude, if you have more, like if you need more info, you can put it in the chat or you can
Yeah,
talk
I
mute.
think it's all part of the same thing. I think it's not
Yeah.
I think one is the methodology that with which you cause that emotion to happen. But emotion is what makes something connect to someone.
Yeah. And there's skill involved in
Yep.
making it all weave through, but then also not making the reader feel like you've beat them over the head.
Right.
When I was at the Wade Center. So if you are coming to the conference, and if you have some extra time, the Wade Center has an archive with, among other things, letters from C.S. Lewis to other people and their replies, and it's in his own hand, but somebody's transcribed them to typewriting because sometimes it's a little hard to read. But that was one thing that one of the letters mentioned was like don't try to make the story into something. And he actually said when I was writing Narnia, I wasn't writing a story initially to like teach. It was the story. And then as I wrote it, I saw what it was becoming, kind of thing. So that was really interesting. He was like, it just started with kind of an idea of a fawn in the forest, and
Hmm.
I just decided to write. So that's kind of cool. Um, any other questions? Also, I was going to mention I was talking yesterday about these towels, and so I just thought I would show you what I was talking about. So the towels at the conference are provided by a linen service, and
They're industrial.
if yes, exactly. If you love towels, you're not going to love them. Um, they will get the job done. But so anyway, there are a couple of microfiber towels out there. So I brought one just so you could see it. So it's very thin and it dries really fast. So I recommend bringing one of these, but it literally folds up into a case that's this big, or you don't have to use the case and save the extra eighth of an inch. And the other one fits in a little bag that's this big. So those are really good options if you want. And I'm going to put a link in one of the emails coming up in case you're interested. I do not get a kickback. I'm not like selling them for anyone on Amazon, but um, one of the ones that I have had, it's lasted for 7 years, and that's pretty amazing for a towel. So if you like your 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 towels, then I would recommend that. And also, Heather Peebles and I actually had a really great conversation today. We started out talking and then realized that she wasn't able to record. So we switched to my Zoom to record to get the transcript because we were going to come back later and record a conversation. And then we had the conversation and we're like, we'll just use this. So I'm going to throw it up on the YouTube channel. And we talked a little bit about platform and some of the other things that people have questions about here. She has a really neat perspective. I love her so much. She's with MAI. So I hope that you enjoy it. I will say we pause a little bit too long sometimes and we laughed a little too hard sometimes. So just excuse that if you don't mind. I'm not going to bother to edit it. I'm just going to put it on there. I don't have time. But we had a really good time talking. So, and then this will also be on the YouTube channel later. Dorothy, I see you waving.
What is MAI?
Media Associates
Dan.
International. That was I mentioned earlier that there was I'm actually on their board, but it's a international ministry for training writers around the world. And Heather Peebles, who's the new CEO of it, she a long history with Wycliffe and other ministries around the world and all that, but she's the CEO now, and we're uh, it's really a great thing to meet. Every few years we get together with global meeting of writers from around the world, and it's an amazing experience to see what people do around the world.
That's great. I've been writing by myself with my little computer for a long time. This is like a whole new world opening up. This is so fun.
Oh, good.
I'm finding, it's like, wow, a writers group? I never thought of that. So it's really fun coming to the conference. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Again, the writers are always one of the common reactions, and it is writers are it's a solitary function. I mean, it boils down to the actual work is something you do by yourself, and but there's nothing in our lives that really finds its that can grow or anything unless you do it in community. And so there's a element of what you do. You grow in your faith through community. You grow, as educationally in a community. You can just read so many books to learn about some subject, but it's not until you go to the convention of Civil War historians that you learn most about, what things do. But same with Christian writers. You have to be in community, otherwise it gets really tedious, problematic, and frankly, without getting too dark on this, it's through solitude and aloneness that Satan discourages and enters into the discouraging part of things. In the dark by yourself is when Satan finds a lost sheep wandering in the woods. So.
Well, I have quite a few stories going, and I didn't have that. But I don't know anything about publishing, and I don't know. I was to the place where I need editors who know what
Yeah.
they're doing instead of just my friends reading it.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that's where I am. I've actually really enjoyed it. It's been a respite from my husband's TV. I don't have to go watch TV with him if I'm writing, right? So anyway, that's my confession.
Well,
But
and Cynthia asked about 540, and so I just put the link in the chat. If you're not familiar with the 540 writers community, that's a nonprofit, and we have free resources. So I know it gets confusing because it's like 540, CWI, right to publish, MAI, right to ignite. Like there's all these things, and my whole idea is we should all be supporting each other, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
540 is a nonprofit that I started in 2020, and that's actually part of why Steve and I even started talking, because I was asking for his advice on some things, and then it led to all this. So it's another great reason to go to a writers conference, because sometimes you don't get a book out of it. Sometimes you get a new job, which is crazy. I still
that
can't
would be very unusual.
can't believe it. But anyway, 540, if you're not already signed up, go to the website, sign up for the newsletter. It's not, well, I mean, I guess it could be annoying, but it's basically the same thing every week. It's just got a little note from me, and then it's got who's speaking. So we bring people like Dan Balow in, because our goal is to bring free, actually it's in the little tagline on the thing, free stellar education accessible to every writer is our goal and mission. So so we bring in industry experts to speak. They donate their time. So there's actually a closed YouTube channel for 540, because a lot of the people who come and speak for 540, they're teaching something that they would teach at a conference, and they're doing it specifically for 540 because many of the 540 members can't come to a conference. And so that's exactly why we exist. But even if you can come to a conference, you can come to 540, and we meet every Thursday night. So if you're on that mailing list, you'll get an email usually on Wednesday, and then the same email comes out on Thursday just as a reminder, like, hey, come join us. So if you don't want the second one, you can just delete it. And it's got the links to our YouTube channel and our 24/7 write-in link. So you can hop on with friends across the world and write together. We have a little cycle that's 15 minutes of chatting mostly about what you're writing, but also get to know each other. And then 45 minutes, turn the mics off. Camera can stay on or off. I turn mine off because when I'm writing, my face, like my thoughts are on my face. So it's up to you though. So you can turn your mic and mic off, camera on or off, and then you write for 45 minutes and then start again if you want. So and that's open 24/7. So we have groups that are on. We don't have an official schedule, but at some point we'll do that because we have some people that meet pretty regularly. So and actually I had a gal reach out and she was like, I got on and nobody else was there, but the thought that somebody could arrive kept me in my seat. And I thought that was hysterical. Alrighty. Well, it is 4:20. So any other last final questions before we head out? Going once, going twice.
Thank you. Just thank you, Dan. That was very informative.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And Dan, would you mind
Thank you.
praying for the group before we go?
Happy
not
to.
to put you on the spot. I didn't ask you, but.
All right, thanks. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We ask that you give us the wisdom and the patience and all the things needed to be your ambassadors on this earth. We thank you for the work that you put before us. What an honor it is for us to be able to represent you, to write about you, to speak about you. May we never tire of it. May we never grow weary. May we be an encouragement to others in their walk, and may we always be seeking your will in everything that we do. We ask that you give us the wisdom that we need to make the right decisions today and tomorrow, and to speak truth, and to be strong and courageous in all. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And I know I promised you time to network, and we didn't quite get to that because we had lots of great questions. So if you would like, you can put your contact information or your website or whatever in the chat, and then I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and then save the chat, and you can go back and follow each other, because that's another huge thing, is supporting each other in the writing is kind of like cheering each other on. So so you can just put if you have a website, that's great. If you have a blog or whatever, or social media where people can follow you, just pop that in the chat real quick. Dan, thank you again. As always, it's lovely to hang out with you. And
I found something. My wife and I are cleaning out our attic, and I found something. And if you want to give it away as a prize at Right to Publish, it's really good.
Ooh.
Hang on.
Okay.
This will be worth it.
I am waiting with bated breath.
It's the Caddyshack Gopher.
Why do you have that?
I have no idea. But it takes like 9 batteries, and it will do the little dance of the Kenny Loggins song if you really want to get into it. So.
Oh my word.
It's all right.
Hysterical.
Don't worry about it.
You should totally bring that to Right to Publish.
Yeah, you could be like the Right
sure
to Publish mascot,
Yes.
things like that.
Good grief, that is cool.
That's so funny. Gordon would like to win it.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's like
unusual.
It is unusual, isn't it? I also have a lava lamp up top there and an accordion, so that's another thing that I have in my background. But
can you play accordion?
No. It's like a 150-year-old accordion from my great grandmother. But
that's cool. My aunt can play accordion. She learned as a child.
Yeah, won't this be a memorable vision on your recording? That would be.
I think so. In fact, I might just use that as I'll take a little. Oh, I need a screenshot real quick. Hang on. If you would like to be in the screenshot, now's a good time to turn your camera on.
I'm only bringing this up because if I don't find someplace for this, it's going to be in the trash in about 3 weeks. So
I'm totally not kidding. I mean, I'm serious. You should totally bring that to the.
That should not happen.
Bring it to the conference.
Stuff like this, wives do not like to be sitting on shelves in the house. So
that's funny.
Okay.
Yep, all right, everybody,
says it all right here.
Your camera and smile, and Dan, if you could say "green box, come to me," and then just stop and smile. Then you have to say the phrase Green box,
What?
come to me. If you say
Green
green
box,
box,
come to
come.
me. Green box, come to me.
Oh, it's not
Okay.
happening because Dorothy's laughing. Sorry. Okay, we'll just do it. All right, everybody, look at your camera. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Got it.
Yeah. You don't get this at all the writers' conferences, I'll tell you
We do
that.
not. That is very true.
Can
And
I just
actually,
say something?
here,
Can I say something, Becky?
you can.
Um,
And Dan, just keep smiling because I'm going to take a screenshot just of you with that thing. Ready?
Oh,
All
great.
right.
There goes my
Smile,
reputation.
Dan.
There goes my
I got
reputation.
you.
It's all over.
It's perfect. Sorry, I heard somebody say my name. I didn't see who it was.
it's Elizabeth. I just want to
Oh,
say,
hey.
dude, thanks for sharing that story. I think I've told you before, but we were talking about the story of Right to Publish starting, and in 1983, I remember listening to Moody. I had just had my first daughter, and I was nursing her, and I remember hearing Lynn Johnson talk on Moody about Right to Publish, and I
That's cool.
so wanted to come. And I couldn't because brand new baby, no money, and I didn't have money for years and years. And then the kids were in school, and it was happening at the same time as the end of the school and all that. So I was not able to come to Right to Publish till 2019. That started in 1983. So,
That's amazing.
yeah, and I did go to another conference, another Christian conference, and I went to a secular one. And you're right, it was every story had foul language and just all kinds of stuff in it. It was hard. I mean, I started my novel there, so it was good, but it was still hard. Went to a different Christian conference that was good. I was appreciative of it, but and I went a couple years, but that one there was so much competition between writers.
Yeah.
And so when I finally got to Write to Publish, and I just saw how everybody supported each other.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about trying to beat somebody to a publisher or an agent and it was about cheering each other on and encouraging each other
Yep.
and listening and hearing. And so it just Right to Publish is someplace I want to be every year now.
Yep.
So I just thank you for all the work that you guys have put in because you're the reason that it's that way. You don't create that environment of those who are in the know and those who aren't and all of that. So thank you for all that you have put into it all the years. And of course, not everybody who's done it is on the call, but they really do. Lynn Johnson and all of those really do deserve an awful lot of ribbons for encouragement. So, yeah.
I'm not going to send her this recording because I don't want her to know about the ribbons, but I am going to send her the previous recording because we talked about how wonderful she was. And I think sometimes people are okay with hearing that they're wonderful as long as no one else is looking at them. And so I'm hoping that will be the case for her. And
Yeah.
she'll be
So,
happy to hear that we were talking
yeah.
about her, or she'll just be really mad at Dan and me. I don't know. We'll see. But,
that wouldn't be new. No.
That's funny. Yeah. And Elizabeth, actually, you are a great example. Like you invite your friends. So if you're coming and you're able and you have a writer friend, invite them to come because I don't know if you saw the email, but we're doing like a last minute kind of push. And it's not about numbers. It's more about like our team prays about who's coming to the conference. So if it's only 10 people or if it's 200 people, we want the right people that God wants there to be there. And I always am praying for that last person to be able to make it. So anybody who comes between now, really a couple weeks ago, and the conference, whoever is registering, you can give them a $55 coupon for them. And then if you bring a friend, you'll have $100 off next year. So it's just kind of like a fun boost. It's not like, trying to hard sell or anything, but I hope that it's fun. And I hope you think of a friend and they're like, you know what, maybe I can come. And then it's a cool thing. So, but Elizabeth, I think last year, I need to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure that you were like the winner for the number of people who said Elizabeth invited me. And I thought that was really, really, really neat. So,
Yeah.
I love the conference. So,
all right. Well, we're right at 4:30, so we're gonna head out. But you guys, I'm so excited to see some of you in a couple weeks. And if you can't make it, I'll see you online. And thanks for being with us today. Dan, thank you again for being with us. And you guys
Thank
have
you,
a
Becky.
great night. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank
5:40.
you.
Bye.